She's an award-winning writer, a hunting guide, archery and rifle instructor, keynote speaker, and all-around outdoors woman who encourages you to get outside, hunt, fish, shoot, and savor all that life has to offer. And now, here's your host, Mia Anstine.
Well, hey, hi, hello, you all. It's Mia visiting with you again. Welcome to Mac Outdoors, where we share everything for a healthy life, getting outside, hunting, fishing, shooting, and savoring all that life has to offer. Today, I want to share with you a wonderful guest who I met through the industry, and this young woman has just been making an impact on others. And I also want to share her because it's gift giving season, and back in episode 127, I shared just a huge barrage of gift ideas. So it's gift giving season. But this idea is one that I think you should really consider and just listen till the end because we've got some things to share with you. And if you want to give yourself a gift or if you have a woman in your life that you would like to share with, there are wonderful things. As always, I will have links in the show notes to things that we discuss, so you can check there either on YouTube or on the website or wherever you may be listening to the show. I do appreciate you tuning in, and for those longtime listeners, thank you so much for coming back. It's always wonderful to have somebody to share with, and if you would like to reach out, I loved hearing from you. You can message on social media or you can email. The email address is contact@miaanstine.com. And without further ado, I want to invite you to sit down and visit with me and Brittany Boddington.
This summer, whether at the range or in the field, WSI Sports Hypertech bamboo tanks, tees, and leggings will have you covered. Visit WSISports.com to support the show and use the affiliate code MACO10 for 10% off your purchase. All products are proudly made in the USA. WSI is bringing back pride in American-made clothing. Again, that code is MACO10 for 10% off your order at WSISports.com.
Hi, Brittany. Welcome to Mac Outdoors. I'm happy to have you on the show. For the listeners, it's been a while since I've visited with Brittany. We do bump into each other at many trade shows and such, but I wanted to share her story and her work with you because more importantly, I think is right now the work that she's done based on her story. But Brittany, would you introduce yourself to my listeners so they have an idea of who you are and what you do?
Sure. My name is Brittany Boddington. We spoke a few years ago, so you know the background, but I'll give everybody a quick catch up. I did about 15 years on outdoor TV. I hosted a variety of shows, and I've written articles for all the big magazines about hunting. I love safari hunting and exotic hunting and all the different crazy stuff, but I also love the regular DIY stuff. And what I started when I left TV is the She Hunt Skills Camp, because I really wanted to give ladies a chance to build up their foundational knowledge on basic hunting skills. What I found with a lot of women in the outdoors is that they're handicapped by chivalry. You know, we have a dad or a husband or a brother or someone that's into hunting that takes us out hunting, and they set up the gun and they dial in the optics and they get everything ready. We go out there, they line it up, we pull the trigger, and they take the gun away. And while that's, I'm sure an amazing starting point, it doesn't make you feel independent in the outdoors. So I started She Hunts to give the ladies a foundational boost so that they could really just stand on their own 2 feet and feel independent in the outdoors.
Yeah, and basically you're helping them have an understanding of everything that they're working with because as a guide and outfitter, I've actually had women come on hunts and they're like, yeah, have you sighted in? Yes. And we always shoot before we go hunt. And it was like, oh, I don't know how to drop the magazine. I don't know how to load the magazine. And so I loved when you said you were starting the camps that you're actually giving them, and it, to me, the word that I think of is you're empowering them by giving them the knowledge to operate what they're doing. And
yeah, that's a fabulous word. I like that one as well.
I mean, because if you have knowledge, you have power. And so that's where I think I really feel bad for ladies when they're, they come and they're like, oh my gosh, like I don't know what to do. And of course, I feel like I'm lucky because I can help teach them, but it's just one person. So with you, you're having groups of women come. How many women come to the camps?
we've got 12 ladies in each camp, and some camps it'll be, up to 14, but we really try 12 is such a sweet spot for us, and it gives me enough time to spend individual time with every girl on the range and just work through everything. I say girl, ladies. And work through everything. But, like you just mentioned, just being able to unload and load your gun safely on and off vehicles and in and out of transit. A lot of ladies just don't know instinctually how to do that. And if they have a husband or father, brother, whoever that's handling their firearms, and then they go out into the field, maybe on their own, maybe not, or maybe they get separated from that spouse on a hunt, it's not safe to be handling firearms and not know how to do those basic skills. And I feel like a lot of ladies are afraid to ask. Like they feel like they should just know. And so we really go down to basics. We talk about mounting your own scope, sighting in your own firearm, handling your firearm independently. And I feel like a lot of ladies just take a breath of fresh air afterwards, because they kind of know, but they want to know that they're right. They want to know that what they're doing is correct without having to ask someone or be scolded afterwards, So just going back and doing all of that. But we also do our brand new camp, which is very exciting, that I want to tell you about, is our advanced camp. It's a She Hunts 2.0, we're calling it. And that is for alumni that have already come through the 1.0 camps. We had ladies coming back for their third and fourth camp. It's like, I love you too, guys, but I feel bad. It's the same information. And so now we've just started our 2.0 camp, which is all advanced courses. It's a completely different curriculum. We're super excited about it. So now that, these girls have gone through, they know what they're doing. Now we're going to, kind of finely tune all of that stuff and then add in additional skills that they can use in the outdoors. So we just had our first one in October, and we're about to do our next one in December. Woohoo!
Very cool. So in 2.0, you said you're kind of building off of those basics and you're progressing with them. Yeah. What kind of different things are you guys doing?
Well, we're talking about hunting with dogs, hunting birds with dogs. So we're doing live field demos, and we're talking about etiquette for upland hunting. We're doing fieldcraft. We're talking about survival skills, building solar stills. We're doing shotgun games. We're actually going to play the different shotgun games and break it down. What's the difference between trap, skeet, and sporting plays. And we do long range shooting. We do all kinds of stuff. What else do we do? We do instead of a cooking demo, we actually do a cooking class where they do the cooking. We've got individual setups for everybody. It's so much fun. I can't give it all away, but it's a lot of fun.
It's a lot. How many days?
5 days.
5 days? Okay.
All of our camps are Thursday to Monday. So it's like a long weekend. We find that for busy moms and busy career women, it's a lot easier to take off 1 or 2 days than it is to take off an entire week. So 5 days over a weekend seems to be the sweet spot.
Yeah. And I love that idea of the 2.0, like building on that and then explaining etiquette and stuff. I teach hunter ed, and it's stuff that, we only have 10 hours to try to teach a lifetime of knowledge. And, people ask, like, where do I start? What do I do? But to me, I generally tell people to start with birds, because we can talk, we can walk, we can have a conversation and teach while we're going. And for you to actually teach the dog etiquette, I think is...
we bring in dogs and do a whole live demo. It's a lot of fun. And then actually one of the other ones I should mention to you, we have an awesome, when I put this together, I was trying to think all the things that are your hiccups when you decide, okay, I'm a hunter now, I'm going to get out in the field. So what's the next steps? And one of those things was understanding the tag and draw systems throughout the US, which is crazy complex, and every state has different rules. And so I've got an incredible guy from Arizona Game and Fish that comes out, and he is just an encyclopedia of knowledge on this stuff. And I give him a cheat sheet of all the states the girls are from ahead of time. And so he breaks down all their rules and all their states.
Oh,
and it's super cool. And he explains why it was developed that way, why it started, how it protects the species, what we're doing to increase numbers, what hunter numbers are, how to talk to anti-hunters. He's incredible. So that's really fun.
That's awesome. That's so important. And I think it's so great that you've added that in there, because it's something that we generally, you grew up with a dad that hunted. I grew up with a dad that hunted. I know you started hunting when you were an adult. So did I. I used to tag along with my dad, but I didn't hunt on my own until I was an adult. So, and I think that's kind of one of those things where dads are being chivalrous sometimes, but
100%. 100%. It's all well intentioned. Don't get me wrong.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, it's great to,
But if they're handling all your points and putting in all your stuff and you never do it, and then all of a sudden you're an adult, you're supposed to take this over. If you don't know how to do it, it's daunting.
it is. And as you said, the different states. I mean, I live in Colorado and you're in Arizona since you have Arizona Game and Fish helping you.
Yes.
The camp is in Arizona?
No, it's in Texas.
It's in Texas. Okay, that's what I thought. But when you said Arizona Game and Fish, I was like, oh, maybe it's in Arizona.
But Texas is only like 20% public land. So to find someone from Texas that can talk about all the states, it's a little slim.
Yeah.
But in Arizona, we're 80% public land. So they deal with all this stuff on a huge scale. So
Yeah, very good. And when you're working with them and you're teaching this, I imagine you're also teaching them conservation issues and why that's important. Is that part of the curriculum?
100%. That's actually part of that specific seminar as well. He talks about why we have draws, how that protects the species, why they're limited, how they do the surveys, which species are limited in which states and why. I mean, he really goes into depth. It's pretty incredible. Another one that we found got huge traction with the girls that I just thought, it's one of those things where you walk into a gun shop, you've got drawn for an elk. Okay, what ammo do I choose and what rifle? What do I need for the size animal that I'm hunting? So we did a whole seminar on rifle and ammo choice for your hunt and why. And I had no idea that would click so well, but the girls loved it because it's you walk in and there's all these different numbers, all these different letters and all the different bullets, but they all fit in the same gun or whatever it is. And which one is appropriate for what you're doing and why. And we really broke that down for them. They loved that. So
excellent. I would love to go there just to get added information and for content and articles because I too am
it's a lot of fun.
And it's probably one of the number one questions that people who don't have somebody to mentor them, they always want to know what rifle should I get? What caliber should I get? And
there's not a one size fits all. It really depends on what you're hunting and how the terrain is going to be. You don't want to carry something heavy that can't shoot a long distance if you're doing, a mountain hunt. You want to pick this carefully. So we really break it down.
That's awesome. I love it. I'm going to have to, like I said, I'll have to sign up and go and check it out also. I've been interested in it forever. We're working on some other mentor camps in New Mexico. And so it's always nice to see what other people are doing and how it's working and stuff like that, filling gaps where, wherever you can. But for the listeners, what do you hunt with? What rifle do you use?
Oh, well, like I said, it's all specific to what we're actually hunting. One of my favorite calibers is the 300 Win Mag because I just really love the thumping power that it has. And if you're not recoil sensitive, that's a fabulous caliber. But again, I wouldn't take that, somewhere I'm going to lay over a pack. I like to go with a little bit flatter shooting, like a 7mm for like a mountain hunt. But I love a 708 for plains game. 708 for Africa plains game is amazing because there's very little recoil. You can shoot almost anything there with it. And that's what we teach on is actually a 708 because it's the first caliber that I hunted with in Africa back in 2003. It's what my dad taught me on. And it's just a really nice all around caliber for mid-size game.
Yeah. And that's something that we often start some of the youth hunters off with and for elk and mule deer hunts and stuff like that.
Yeah. And it's I've killed an eland with a 708 back in the day, but it's plenty of thump as long as your shot placement is correct.
Yeah. Shot placement is so important. I'm sure that's always a number one.
Teach that in 1.0. It's actually the way that we structure the 1.0 camps. Nobody hunts the first days when they come in the first day. We go through and we talk sight in, and then they all get to shoot the guns they'll be hunting with, and then we do shot placement. Those are the two most critical things that we find. Obviously, gun safety happens before any of that. There's a lot more to it, but we need to, I feel like ladies understand shoulder, but they don't necessarily understand why. And when you really break it down, explain the anatomy of the different animals, where the vitals sit, women love information. The more information that they can get their head around exactly what they're doing, like vague is not helpful. Shoulder is a big area, but if you really explain like where the top of the heart is, where it connects to the lungs, why you want to hit there, and the catastrophic damage that it does when you do, ladies are so dialed in. We have these girls coming. I was aiming for the top of the heart. Like, girls. Like, let's throw out the whole hit it in the shoulder thing. Let's aim for the heart. So
Yeah. And so you mentioned Africa and your dad, and obviously, I don't know if everybody knows your dad or not. So would you kind of give a little background about your family?
sure. Yeah. My dad is Craig Boddington. He's written 30 something books on hunting. He's been published in basically all of the hunting magazines out there. He's been in the business for, gosh, 40 plus years, and just a, big name in the outdoors. He's on TV since, since I've been an adult. And I actually had a huge leg up in getting started by following him around in Africa in the early 2000s, back when he hosted treks across Africa. And so that was kind of my intro. And he's done a lot since. He still hosts Guns and Ammo Television, Peterson's Hunting, all of those. I did Peterson's Hunting with him, different. We were both hosting different episodes, but for like 8.5 years. And he's incredible. He still comes to all our 1.0 camps and lends his expertise, and the girls get to shoot with him and takes them on a dangerous game hunt. And it's so much fun.
I bet that would be awesome to hang out with him. And I have hung out with your mom. I went on the Wyoming women's antelope hunt, which I actually had them on episode 83, I think it was. But we had fun up there, and she and I both went in a challenge situation. So ended up being a fun hunt, but it was really cool to hang out with her. And she also was doing some women's hunts or camps or something, or did she ever start that?
No, she did a women's event. I think it was called like Wine and Swine up in Paso Robles. Yeah. I don't know if she's done it more than once, but I know that she had one and it was awesome.
Okay. Yeah. And that's what we had talked about. She was getting that together when we were.
Yeah, I think they did do one. Yeah.
Cool. Well, hopefully it went well for her, and hopefully she's doing well. I haven't seen her. I haven't seen her in a while, so I haven't been able to catch up with her. And
yeah, I haven't either. She's got an elderly dog, so she hasn't been able to travel much. My dad was actually just out with us in Texas over Thanksgiving, so we got to hang out with him.
Okay,
we have a Texas place right next to the record buck where we do the camps, and we had some deer culling to do. My dad always shows up for the deer culling, so no, he wanted to see his granddaughter. So.
And speaking of granddaughters, last time I think that you and I interviewed or visited, I think you were pregnant then. I'm not positive.
I was. I was on crutches too, I believe.
You were on crutches.
Yeah.
You had a
yeah. She just turned 3. She's incredible. She's a little spicy at the moment, but she's good. I wonder where she gets it.
I don't know.
Weird. She's awesome. She's so funny.
And so with having children, do you have 2 now or 1?
Nope, just 1.
Just 1. Do you imagine she'll be getting into the firearms, or have you started?
I do actually have a bonus daughter that's 12, and she has just started hunting. So my bonus Ava has just gotten into it. I think she shot her first deer 2 years ago, and she is gung-ho. So we took her to Namibia last year and the year before, and she shot like 5 animals each trip. She loves it. She's obsessed. So that's been really, really fun to watch. And I've been tutoring her up, and we go shoot together, and she's wearing all my camo, and it's so much fun. Lily told me just on this last trip that she wants to shoot too because Ava's doing it. So I told her when she's 4, she can shoot. And she says she's going to hunt sola. She speaks Spanish too. She just wants to hunt alone. I said, no, honey, you can't go alone.
Not yet.
But I'm going sola. I'm like, okay, whatever.
Speaking of that, what do you think is a good age? It's another question that's often asked is when should you start teaching gun safety? Or like my daughter, she had her first, it was a toy bow, but I taught her safety with her bow when she was 3 or 4 years old. And so what do you think, like when people ask that, how old do you think they should be?
Being a first-time mom, I don't want to step on toes of experienced parents that have been through this and know more than I do. But from experience, I think gun safety starts at birth if there's guns in the house. So we train from the moment that they can hear you. Don't touch this. This is okay. This is not for you. And obviously we lock up everything that's, actionable. But I think that that's from birth. So they know the business end, and they know that they should not be touching any of it. And I think for getting in the field, The reason that I told her 4 is because I don't think that right now anything that I have, even the pellet gun, would fit on her. I think she's too small. When she does start, we'll start on a pellet gun. Little Daisy, And then when she gets a little bigger, I'm going to move her to a 22. And then when she gets a little bigger, we'll do a 223. And that's how we started Ava as well. She did a pellet gun, and then she did a 22, and then she shot the 223. And when she was comfortable with the 223, then we moved her up to the 708. And she's been great with it. She shoots a 7mm, a 708, and she shot a 300. So she's doing awesome at 12. So it really depends on the child. Ava went through a phase where she was really into it around 6 years old. She wanted to shoot everything. And then she got a little gun shy, a little recoil shy. And I don't know if it was recoil or just bang, but she went through a phase around 7 where she just wanted nothing to do with it. And that was fine. We didn't push. We let her back out. And then around 8, she came back to it. And now she's all about it. So
Exactly. And I agree with you. I think it kind of depends on the child. I also think it depends on the parents because like you're a very involved parent. I can tell, you're saying you're going to start from birth, like you're very involved. And some of the parents, I actually have some friends who I won't name, but they brought one of their children to Hunter Ed and they were so upset because that youngster didn't know all the answers. And it's like, well, it's not an innate instinct. If you taught them from birth, that yes, then it seems as though it's innate, but it's because they already have grown up with that. So for any parents listening, if you involve your children, that's how they learn and it becomes second nature to them. The classes that you have, do you involve any youngsters like 12 and up or 16 and up or anything like that?
10 and up are welcome in camp. Although when I do have moms and they have to come with mom. We don't take any children under 18 without mom present. Mom or a guardian, an aunt or a sister or somebody that is of age. When they do come and I know they're coming, I try to group them into a single camp. So we had one camp a couple years ago that Ava actually went to where I had a few moms that had expressed interest in bringing kids around 10 to 12. We ended up with 7 moms with children under 16 in that camp. And it was so cool.
Cool.
So we had like 16, 14, 2 12s and like 3 10s or something like that. And it was awesome because they had that camaraderie. They were cheering each other on. They were going out hunting together. It was so cute. And those girls had originally signed up for different camps, but I talked to them and said, listen, I do have this group, like if we want to do this. And so we did that in May so the kids could be out of school. So I will kind of change things around to make it work if I have a lot of interest like that. I do find when there's only one, 10-year-old in a group of adults, it's not the same experience for them. It's a lot more fun when there's other kids. So if I have moms that are interested, I just try to funnel them toward a camp with other youngsters in it.
Right. And do you see with that camaraderie, are you able to see like post class time, are they staying in touch with one another or are they part of the groups that are coming back for a second?
Ava has a group chat that's like on her little iPad that's like a She Hunts Girls. And they all talk about, they send dead animals and all the stuff they've accomplished. And one of the girls has actually gone on to be a shotgun competitor. She's competing in competitions. And so she's on there all the time, like, I won this, I won that. She's doing great too. So that's been a lot of fun to watch.
That's cool. So, and I just think it's great because when I think of She Hunts camps, I'm thinking of adult women. But it's really neat that you're integrating the daughters in there with that and how they obviously are going to be able to grow as well and share that with other people too.
Well, I should mention as well, we have a ton of adult mother-daughter groups that come through.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just the youngsters. We have a lot of, I would say like early adults with mom that come to camp. I would say almost every camp, we have a mother-daughter pair. And that's really cool to watch too, because it's, an adult child that is maybe just graduated from college or maybe going off to college soon. And it's like that kind of alone time. It's the mom-daughter experience and they're on an adventure and they go together and it's like such good bonding time. So that's a lot of fun too.
Awesome. And it does seem like such an adventure. When they go there, are they going to a ranch in Texas, I'm guessing?
Yes, it's a beautiful 5-star ranch. It's a 10-room lodge, double occupancy in each room. And it's beautiful. It's like one big building. All the rooms are in it. So it's not individual cabins. It's like everyone's in one big building. So we have seminars and meals together. And they have like 60 something species on this place. So you can hunt anything. I mean, there's year-round hunting opportunity. It's really incredible. The staff is so cool. The meals are 5-star. Bernard is the chef. He's incredible. And it's all plated. It's amazing. It's a really, really nice experience.
And so I'm trying to not put my own things into it, but what I'm picturing is when you travel overseas, over to Europe or somewhere, and the chef is going to present the meal to you and stuff like that. Are they presenting game animals for meals, or is
They
it
do
very...
not. No, they cook regular beef and pork and all of that. They don't. We do for our cooking demos. We do cook wild game.
Is it everyone's pretty receptive to whatever you guys offer?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we've never had complaints on that end. And they're so good at accommodating our gluten-frees and dairy-frees and all the different things. They're so good at it. It's really incredible what they do. They don't just give you less food, they give you proper food. So it's really amazing what they've done.
It sounds like such a great time. And so I wanted to also ask you, when you are doing this, you're providing them information, but you're not providing them a firearm. It's just one they can use while they're there.
Correct. Yeah, Weatherby is our sponsor, and they've given us a dozen different rifles that we use. So we use 223s on the range. We do 708s in the field. They don't take it home, but they have everything that they need there. We used to, in the very, very beginning, before we had all these guns, have people bring their own. And it just is such a cluster on the range to have a variety of ammo and a variety of guns moving around and muzzles getting up from every station. And I don't like it. So I prefer to control all of that. And for insurance purposes, it's a lot cleaner. But therefore, I know where all my guns are. I know they're serviced. I know they're clean. I know they're checked. I know that everything's right on them. And using my own equipment, I can really keep that quality top notch. So, and Leupold provides our scopes, and we get new rings for the new season. So everything is tight, everything is dialed, and the girls take on and off these scopes every camp. So we've got to make sure that everything is right. And I wouldn't want to mess up their own guns, using them in camp.
Yeah.
Rather let it be mine.
Yeah. And I'm sure generally, when you say mess them up, generally they're not going to get messed up, but
no, I just mean taking the screws on and off over and over and over, because it can strip them, but we'll fix it. So
yeah. I actually have been at camps where women have brought their own guns, and again, parts are missing or something's not there. And then they are nervous, even though they are with women and they're more comfortable with women. It makes them nervous when, oh my gosh, I'm missing this, or, something didn't work. And so that's, I think, a very comfortable environment for them, give them some confidence to.
Exactly. Well, and then you're trying to teach on a huge variety of optic systems. You're trying to teach on different mounts. You're trying to teach on different calibers. It's just easier to know that this is equipment that works, Yeah. And I picked it specifically for the facts that for the reason that it's perfect caliber for everything on that ranch. It works on the range perfectly well. I know that those bullets are dialed in. I know that the ammunition we're using is great. I mean, Hornady's got us dialed. We have our target loads. We have our hunting loads. We're just set.
Awesome. And that's what I was going to ask what kind of ammo you're using. Are you teaching them about how different ammo may feed differently in a different gun? And
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we talk about sight in, we talk about sighting in with target loads, and then checking with hunting rounds and adjusting accordingly so you don't waste all your hunting rounds. And we talk about all of
it. I hope that whoever is listening, if you have a woman in your life that you would like to send to camp, I think it'd be wonderful to send them.
Hunts.com.
Yeah. And hopefully you won't be intimidated when she comes back smarter than you, but
they keep asking us when we're going to let the husbands come. It's like, teaching men is just a different thing. I mean, women are so easy. They listen. Patient, they have no egos.
I asked you about your camps. What I wanted to ask you now is about some of your hunts. What are kind of some of the best hunts you've ever been on, or most memorable hunts you've been on?
Oh, goodness. That is a broad, sweeping question. Let's see.
There's so many, but you can tell me about more than one if you want.
I mean, one of the super unique hunts that always comes to mind when people ask me is the Peruvian whitetail that I hunted many years ago. Gosh, it was 2015-ish, 13, 14, 15, somewhere in there. Back when I went, they had just opened hunting in the country. And when I got my license is number 9 ever issued. I was the first European female ever to get a license, which was so cool. They were still setting up kind of the guiding and figuring it out. My guide Caesar, he was kind of instrumental in putting together the hunting areas and working with the local villages on top of the mountains to like get hunters in there. And when I went, I was kind of an experimental try for the first trip. So nobody had been there yet where we went. And those local villages, they speak a dialect similar to regular Spanish, but it's not regular Spanish. So I can understand a fair bit, but I couldn't communicate properly. But it was so cool. The little kids had never seen anyone that looked like me. And they were trying to rub my freckles off. They were asking if my pink nails hurt. And it was just, it was such a cool experience. I remember there was this little girl named Almendra, and she had this little potbelly pig. And I'm sure they were feeding him to eat him, but he was the cutest little pig. And she was carrying him around all the time. And he was just screaming bloody murder. And she would hand him to me and he would calm down because I was holding his legs. You know, she was just kind of holding, she was like 5. And so at the end of the trip, she tried to give me the pig. Trying to explain to her I have to go on an airplane. I can't take it with me. And she's just looking at me like, what? It was the funniest thing, but that was a super cool experience just because it was so different. And we hunted that year. We actually didn't get one that first trip. They're the weirdest little deer. It's like a subspecies of whitetail. They look more like a Coues deer, but they're just small. They're small bodied, small antlered, and they're super weird to hunt because you're just at the very top of the mountain, like 14,000 feet elevation. And they sneak around behind the cactus on these little trails. And, you know, they have those like scaffolded, how do you say it? Graduated farming areas where it's like plateaus, and they sneak around the edges of that. So you'll see them and then they'll disappear because there's like a groove that they can follow. And the first year it was so cool. I slept in a house with a family in like a mud built house on my little cotton sleeping bag that I brought. And there's like a window between the 2 rooms, and they were in one and I was in the other because I could hear them. They could hear me. It was very close. And you could hear the mountain lions come through at night. You could hear the sheep yelling when the mountain lions would get close. It was just wild. It was a super, super cool experience. And I went back the second year and I finally got my deer on like the last day. It was just hard hunting. My knees were shot. It was one of those like Hail Marys. And we finally got it done. And it was so cool. It's actually an episode on Peterson's Hunting. I think it's still on YouTube, but it was so much fun and just so completely different than anything I'd ever done.
I love that your whole story didn't actually have to do with the killing of the animal, but the whole culture and experience, because I think a lot of people are surprised by hunters that it's not always about whether you got the animal or not. And I love that you were persistent and went back and got an animal, but that culture that you experienced. And I mean, to me, like even a 5-year-old little girl that wants to give you her pig, I don't know that I know any 5-year-olds right now that would offer any of their things to me.
It was so cute. It was so cool too. That village where we stayed, was a school, but the kids that go to that school, they lived all across the mountain range and they would walk miles and miles. I'm talking 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds. They would come in with little wind chapped cheeks. I have the most amazing photos from that trip, but like little wind chapped cheeks in their little beanies. And they had walked an hour to get to school, little kids, but they came from all around to go to school. And it was really incredible. What you were saying about the cultural thing, like I always tell people I collect adventures. I don't collect trophies. I collect adventures because I want to see every corner of the planet. And what I found is that hunters get to see so much more real world, real culture, real experiences than tourists. Because if you show up and stay in a hotel as a tourist, you are not seeing how people truly live. Like being in a remote village on top of a mountain where no one had ever been, no one that looked like me had ever been, was so incredible. That kind of experience is priceless, and it's not something you can buy. You know, you can't as a tourist sign up to go there. No one's going to take you there. There's no tour buses up there. You know, we drove 12 hours on a zigzagged road to get there. I puked twice. But those kind of experiences are what makes it, you know, unique. And I feel like hunting is such an incredible way to see the world. I love the hunting aspect. Don't get me wrong. I really do. And I'm passionate about it. But the entire adventure is what I love. I love the perseverance. I love the physical aspect. I love meeting new people. All of it.
Yeah. And you saying you wanted to see all corners of the world, have you hunted on all the continents? Like where all have you been?
I've hunted on 5 continents, around 100 species now. That's not for me. Like I'm not checking boxes. I'm like I said, I would rather go to the same. I would rather go up to the same animal twice in different areas and see 2 different parts of the world than I would check a box on a species. So, yeah, I mean, we went to Kyrgyzstan for. I just met my now husband. We were dating, and I had a couple episodes left of Peterson's that I was still filming before I retired. And I said, "Do you want to come with me?" He was like, "Where are we going?" And it's like Romania and Kyrgyzstan, and they were back-to-back hunts being filmed as one big trip. And he said, "Sure," not having a clue what we were actually signed up for. And man, that was an experience. Romania was incredible, but it was deep snow. We were hunting for chamois up in the mountains, and it was a lot more physical and difficult than we anticipated. And it was cool. We both got incredible trophies, and it was a fabulous experience. And then we got into Kyrgyzstan, and it was like a 10-day horseback deal. It took us like 14 hours in a van to get to the border. When the van finally broke down, they had to bring horses to come rescue us. We had to pare our gear down. We couldn't take our gun cases, nothing, anything that would fit on the horse. That's what you get to keep. Left the rest in a dead van in the middle of nowhere. We were right on the border to China. And I mean, that was setting off in the dark, complete pitch black darkness at 4 a.m. on a horse I'd never met before in my life, on a packing blanket on top of a saddle, like wildly insecure. And literally the horse could see, but I couldn't. So you just blind trust. It was the most incredible experience. It was sub-freezing. We were camping. We had all our stuff on our backs. Oh, guides ran out of food. There's a lot of stories that start with this one time in Kyrgyzstan. And at the time, not very many of them were good, but in retrospect, fabulous stories. And that was a really cool deal. We ended up sleeping a couple nights at the Soviet era military bunker. And there was a guy there that had been there for a couple years. He had not seen anybody in quite a while, and he was so excited to have us. So he brings out this huge bag of potatoes. He skinned all of them. He was going to have a feast, but it's only potatoes. And so he's boiling these potatoes, and my husband had brought a couple of those little tiny things of Jaeger. And so he gave one of the guys one of these little things of Jaeger. The guy was so excited. He finally brings out a bag of sardines. So now we've got potatoes with salt. That's very exciting. So he gives him another one of these little Jaegers, and all of a sudden he's got spices. So he wasn't going to share that stuff to begin with. It was just going to be boiled potatoes. So now we've got salty, spiced boiled potatoes, and we ate that for like 3 days. But it was just incredible. And this guy was a replacement. He'd been there 2 years, old guy. And he was a replacement for the previous guards that had been there. There were 2 that had been there previously, but they had been beheaded by the Taliban that had come down from the border of China only 2 years prior on that site. So that was disconcerting, sleeping there. But there's a lot of weird stories like that.
And I was going to ask you, going to these places, being an American and being a woman, have you felt, I mean, obviously you're trying to survive in the conditions. I mean, that's one thing, but have you been in areas where you didn't feel safe or where you were in danger? Or are the people you're going with pretty safe?
I think the anticipation of certain trips was much worse than the reality. I have not been put in a position where I felt like I needed to call for rescue by any means. I definitely have been put in positions where, like, when upon arrival, they tried to change the deal, change the prices, change the deals. I have been put in those a few times, but I just hold my ground. And eventually they realize blood from a turnip. I'm not going to give them anything else. So I don't travel with a bunch of cash on me, and therefore they can't get much out of me. So there's been those kind of situations. But other than that, I think I do a lot of homework beforehand. And I talk to the people I'm going to hunt with beforehand. And usually there's an intermediary that makes sure that things are under control. So I would definitely recommend do your homework. I know a lot of people buy auction deals and they go blind. I would say do your homework on who you're hunting with before those purchases, even if it's a quick Google search. Just do some homework. because those are the horror stories that you hear, the people that just book something online and they show up there and it's not what they thought it was going to be. And it's so there's ways to avoid that.
Yeah, definitely. And when you're looking for hunts, I know I generally see you at SCI. Are you meeting outfitters there, visiting with them, booking hunts with them, or is it just kind of word of mouth through the industry?
You know, in the last few years, I've really just been going back to my favorite hunting holes. I've been going back with the same outfitters that have become like family to us. Back when I was doing the TV stuff, yes, SCI was a huge source of new opportunities, and we would talk to people there about potential filming opportunities and stuff like that. But in the last few years, we've really developed such a nice network that if there's a specific area that I want to go, I'll find a buddy of someone I've already hunted with that has good recommendations, and I go through them as well. I know my dad's got a big Craig Boddington authorized outfitters, and he's got a big pool network that he has personally checked out that are cool. So that's a good resource. And SCI, I mean, you can walk around and talk to anyone from anywhere, and they really have a really nice selection of countries, experiences, people. So definitely sit down and have a one-on-one with people before you book if you have the opportunity to do so. It really gives you a sense of how that comfort level is going to be when you get there.
That's something for the listeners. If you guys go onto my website, I have a link to a book that it helps you know what questions to ask when you're booking a guided hunt. And the book is actually for United States hunts because for me, I haven't been to as many countries as you have, and I know what questions I would ask for the places I've been, but it's kind of like the hunting licensing, like from state to state to state. I think the questions I would ask would be a little different depending on which country I was going to.
Oh,
So
100%. And I've been on hunts in the US that were much harsher conditions than hunts internationally. People think like, oh, when you go international, it's going to be actually they cater to it so much more internationally. I've had much harder, more bare bones hunts in the US than actually overseas. Usually overseas, you're pretty spoiled.
that's true. Now that you say that, I have had similar experiences. They do take care of you. Well, I really appreciate you coming on, and I hope that the listeners will check out the She Hunts camps, skills camps, She Hunts
Yep,
skills
she
camp,
has skills camps.
and check that out. I think that if you're a woman, it'd be a great gift for yourself, and if you're a man, you could probably give that to the women in your life just to
Christmas is coming, guys.
And
Fabulous Christmas present.
I know that women are really hard to shop for, but that is a gift that is just priceless. It would be something that would give forever. So keep that in mind. Brittany, is there anything else that you want to share with the listeners?
Yeah, I will just give you one more tidbit now that you mentioned the gifting. We've had a few ladies come through camp, a couple specifically that I'm thinking of that were super hesitant. Husbands bought it for them. They weren't sure if they wanted to be there. They weren't hunters, but they would go along on the hunts with their husbands. And one specifically, Tony and her husband, Rich, are incredible. And they have actually come on hunts with us privately now, but when she first came, she would hold the camera. He would hunt, she would hold the camera. And when she first came to camp, she was like, okay, I'm just here to learn more. I want to feel more competent. You know, if I'm going to follow him around after dangerous game, I should be able to hold a gun just in case, you know, that kind of thing. And since she's come to camp, she said it's his turn to hold the camera. And she has shot so much amazing animals. And they go on trips every year together. And it has been such an incredible turn for their relationship. And he is so proud of her and so supportive. And it's awesome to watch. So I think there's a lot more stories like that, but it's a gift that can change the dynamic of a marriage. You know, if you go from, well, another lady, she had come and said, listen, my husband is either planning a trip, packing a trip, on a trip, or unpacking from a hunting trip. And I am done with it. I'm always dealing with the kids and he's always dealing with hunting. I want to either go or he needs to stop going. And she came to camp just to figure out if he was going to be able to continue hunting. And she had actually never pulled the trigger before. So she came to camp having never pulled the trigger on a rifle. And I took her through from a 22, worked our way up. On the second to last day of camp, she shot a bison. And
Wow.
she took home a bison and she made a perfect shoulder shot and it reeled around. She reloaded a 375 H&H Heim and shot him again, broke both shoulders, perfect shots, took home a bison. And that woman has hunted all over the planet since then. She has been to Hawaii. They're going to Africa this year. They're like, It's incredible what that has done for them. They traveled together. She just shot a public land coos deer here in Arizona. She got drawn for this year. She's incredible at 560 yards, I should tell you.
Wow.
I know. And this is a woman that had never pulled a trigger prior to she hunt. She wasn't even sure if she wanted to be there, and it has completely changed the course of their marriage. So I think when guys consider doing it, I would say consider what you could gain from having a hunting partner, as opposed to just, a gift.
That's great advice.
Long-term change.
I would say, even if she doesn't want to hunt with you forever, maybe she still wants to stay home and not go on the hunt, but at least you would have a greater understanding of what you're doing. So,
yeah. If she is still going to follow and not be the shooter, at least she's safe handling a firearm. So like in dangerous game situations, if she needs to back you up, she can, and you'll feel safe with her armed behind you, and that's huge.
That is huge. Huge, huge. You have so much experience and knowledge. I think it's awesome. And I thank you so much for sharing it with us, because it's just priceless. I mean, as priceless as the camps, I'm sure. But yeah. I hope that I will see you in a couple months or a couple
weeks. We've got a booth.
Yeah. Before we know it, we'll be there. And so for the listeners, if you want to reach out to Brittany, I will have links to her website in the show notes, as well as her social media. And I also will link to some of the resources that she suggested, like the authorized outfitters from Craig Boddington and stuff like that.
And I'm really easy to reach. If anybody ever has any questions, it's just Brittany@shehunts.com. So you can email me anytime.
Perfect. Thank you, Brittany. I really appreciate it.
All right. I'll talk to you soon, Mia. Thank you.
Hey, this is Lloyd Bailey, the Armed Lutheran, host of the Armed Lutheran Radio podcast, reminding you that the podcast you're listening to is a proud member of the Self-Defense Radio Network. Check out all the great content at selfdefenseradio.net.